something I found, and it works really well, especially with this type of glue, and uh, works, so I use it. So what is it I have been putting off for so long? Well, it's repairs. And I have a few to do, and they're on some pretty important books. So I have to, be careful and take my time and do my best. The first one I think we're going to start with today is the book I picked up in, actually it was our very first episode we shot for Bailey the Bookman, and our adventure out to Perdue, Saskatchewan, which was a lot of fun. So the board is completely detached from this copy. I have already guarded the edge on this signature, so we can put that back in. It has to go in first, then the board. And what is it? It is the Journal of the House of Assembly of the Province of New Brunswick, and this was before Canada was actually a country. We also need to do a little work on my awesome find I got out in British Columbia, the signed H.G. Wells book, and I've got to decide exactly what I'm going to do with this. I think I know. You can see this board is hinged, or letting go as it's called, and it's almost completely detached. We also have this business on the front free end paper, which is kind of nuggly right there. So there's not much we can really do with that except tidy it up a little bit. The other issue is the rear board and spine are completely detached. So I think what I might do is just take the boards off completely, and then we're going to go in, do some well, I'll show you. We're going to take it apart, put it back together. And I've got 2 pages. I found a lovely, lovely copy of Jack London's Call of the Wild. This is a Canadian first edition, published by Macmillan. I can't remember what year it is. In the year 1903 is on the publication page, but on the title page at the bottom it says Toronto Morang and Company Limited, 1905. So probably the American edition came out in 1903, this Canadian in 1905. Anyway, it's this lovely little copy. I just love the work on the front board. The titles on the spine are really nice and sharp and bright. But there's 2 pages here I've marked that are completely detached, so we're gonna tip those in and get them permanently reattached into the book. And then this might be like a 3-hour long episode. I've been working on a fun project. I've been at it for a while. It's kind of ground to a halt here for the past few months. This is The Lost World, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Of course, the book that Jurassic Park was based on. Again, Toronto, the Mousson Book Company. And this is copyright 1912. I like the illustrations and the weird kind of color they use for the background of those. Anyways, I have pulled this completely apart, resewn it, put the boards on, put some new end papers in, that sort of thing. Now, I'm doing it with raised spine, so when the leather goes over, you will see these hubs on the spine. I didn't use a very good material when I put these on, and I'm going to take those off and put leather on. I need to fill this hole in a little bit, and I need to, this is the piece of leather that's going to go on it. Beautiful red Moroccan leather. So when it goes on, it will wrap around, and that piece here, we will fill that in and make it, well, you can kind of see it, and then we will have a title piece that will fit in there. Well, this is too deep, so I'm going to fill this in a little bit. We're going to take some of the back side of this leather, it's called paring, and then we'll reattach it to that. I don't know if we're going to get all this done in one episode, but I need to get started. So before we tip this signature back in, when you do guard on these edges, it tends to flatten things out and takes away the natural shape that it had in this book, which of course is from 1863. It's been that way for a long time. It wants to stay that way. And in order for our top edge of this signature to line up with the text block, and also so it doesn't stick out unnaturally over the front edge of the book, I've lined this up, placed some weights on it, and then I'll just take my bone folder and I'll just really gently just kind of rub this along the spine edge and see if we can't convince it just to take some of that shape as it comes up over the back of the spine here. This is really hard to do. So you can see where, maybe can you see, I don't know, where it's just starting to take that curve right there along the edge. So we're just going to keep doing this. We're just going to keep doing this for a couple of minutes, very nice and gently, until it kind of takes that shape. So here, I'll lift that up, maybe it'll. So can you see now, right along here, how it's getting that little bit of curl, so it fits inside this groove, just like that. And when you're binding a book, you can see this part here, the dark part. So that's the paste down piece of paper. So this part is what is visible when the board goes in place. So it's tough to do, of course, when you can't see underneath there. However, there are markings along the board edge that correspond with the spine edge. Being that it's such an old book, it just fits right into place. But I will also take one of these. Yeah, it's an old carpenter's square. And we'll put it like this. As you can see, it's lining up on the bottom board, and then this edge lines up with the front board. So those two should be flush with each other. I'll also check the front. That's good. Bottom is good. And I can do a visual check as well. And yeah, we're a little high on the top, I would say. I'm just going to shovel that down a little bit. So I want to make sure I got the same space at the top edge as I do at the bottom edge. So again, when the book is closed, everything lines up nice and square, and only this part is visible. Now sometimes when you do repairs, the pages will push out a little bit and they'll cover that up, but sometimes you just can't get around that. Okay. I have cut a piece of rice paper, and it is exactly the right length. And if you'll notice, these ends are frayed. They're not cut nice, and you want it to blend in a little bit so that when this goes on here. It'll go on this edge like this. Well, it's going to be white, so we're going to have to paint that up and match it as best we can to the existing colors of the board, which can be a bit tricky, but it's kind of fun. So you can see how frayed these are on the ends. That's so it blends in nicely. There's not a really sharp, obvious, repaired edge. Okay, I'm going to get set up to do that. Okay, we've got a bit of glue in there. So we are just gently rub that into place. Let it assume that shape that it wants to take. And then we will put a tin in there, and then we're just going to set that aside and let it dry. Let's have a look and see how this turned out. See if we got our signature tipped in successfully. Take our, we got weights. Take our tin out, and we'll have a look here. So it has fit in nicely in that groove, and it would look like that has been successfully reattached. So there we go. So it's fit right in there, and we still have space for the board to fit in there. And that's something you have to really be wary of when you are doing repairs, is that you make sure you have enough space to fit everything back in. Okay, we're going to start on the board part now. So I just wanted to clarify as we go through the process here of the repairs that I do, that I am not a conservator. I've studied at the American Academy of Bookbinding, fine leather bookbinding. I've taken some repair courses, but I am not an expert. So I'm sure some of the things I do on here drive the real conservators and top-notch professionals out of their minds, some of the stuff I do. But, you know, as I've heard along the way, and like Bruce Lee used to say about Kung Fu, use what is effective, disregard the rest. Okay, I'm going to apply the rice paper now to the edge here and reattach this board. We very carefully have put it in place so everything lines up. I hope this camera angle is okay. Maybe like that. That should work. Like I say, this is a method I have found that works quite well, and it helps. I use this method because it helps me be very accurate with the placement of the rice paper. So I'm just going to have to stir my glue here. I'll be right back. Okay, let's have a go at it here and see what we see. Now I don't put this on very thick at all at this point. This is pretty effective glue, and we're going to give it lots of help here in a bit as we go through the process. Right now I just want to get that piece of rice paper fixed in the right spot, and then we can continue on from there. Okay, so here's our piece. So here's what I'm talking about, lining it up so that it's proper at the ends and it's nice. So we want kind of the same on the top as we do on the spine. Otherwise it looks a little bit odd. So I'm just going to gently kind of press that in with my fingers, let some of the glue soak in. It doesn't take a whole lot for it to kind of get a grip. And then we'll come for a second coat, and we'll just kind of do this. Okay, I'm going to put all this glue on and then I'll show you the next step. Got the glue on, I'm going to take a little bit of wax paper and we're just going to gently rub this in to all the little crevices and make sure that glue is sticking at the edges, because there's nothing worse than getting this done and then, you know, it's lifting somewhere and you got to go fool around with it. So a little bit of rubbing is a good thing. Sometimes it's a lot, just depends, and you have to be patient. Bone folder is a bookbinder's best friend. Okay, and you got to be careful here that you don't rub this so much that the wax paper is going to get attached. It doesn't as a rule, but you just, you know, you want to be careful. Everything's very gentle, light touch. Can even do that. Apologies to any conservators out there that I am driving bananas, but like I said earlier, if it works, use it. One thing I've learned in bookbinding, and the many times I've been down to Telluride for school, is that really no two bookbinders work the same. Use similar techniques, and there's some basic principles that we all employ or should employ, but really bookbinding is a very personalized sort of thing. Okay, stop here on this part and show you the next one in a second. So I don't know if other book repair folks do this or use this technique. Something I found, and it works really well, especially with this type of glue, and works, so I use it. Here, I'll show you how. So this is our edge that we've just repaired and applied the paper to. So I want to make sure that that sets and is nice and snug. I've inserted a tin here, just in case some of the glue might leak through. It shouldn't. There's hardly enough there. So here's the wax paper. I've set a weight on it. Now I'm going to take the front edge of the wax paper, and I'm going to pull it over, and I'm going to pull it very, very snug so that it's all the pressure is even across this edge, and that is going to apply pressure to the rice paper and that spine edge and on the front of the board, and hopefully that will ensure that our repair is good and solid. So I'm going to finish that off and then set it up and let it dry. Well, clearly I was dreaming, thinking that we might get at more than one book that we talked about at the beginning of the episode. So those will be parts 2 and 3, maybe 4. We'll see how it goes. And each one's kind of a little bit of a different technique, so it should be fun. Now, the last episode, or the episode that I called Things That I Found in Books, I talked about some biopredation and that I couldn't find an example. Well, you know, as the universe is prone to work, the day after I posted that video, I found an actual perfect example of what I was trying to tell you about. So I'm going to show that to you right now. So this is a rather gnarly copy of Robinson Crusoe. It's a pretty cheap edition, you know, very popular title. It's from 1922, and when you open it up, we can see, if you look along the spine, it's had some serious chewing, and this is of course where most of the glue is, so it's all been eaten up. And here are the holes I was telling you about. So right here, and these go almost through the entire book. So a bug nestles in there and just starts to chew their way through, and all the way through the book you can see where they've been eating. You can even see on the end here they've gone through, eating their way in. Yeah, pretty. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's pretty healthy appetite right there. Look at that. Anyway, that's a perfect example of the biopredation I was trying to tell you about in that episode. Okay, let's take a quick look and see how we made out drawing the paper on the spine and front board edge. We let it sit overnight. Take the weights off. And that's coming off very nicely. There we go. So I'm just gonna lift this up, get rid of that. Let's see here. So as you can see, it's a big white strip now. I'm gonna take out the tin, and it did its job. There's no glue where we don't want glue. All of that's good. Okay, so pull some of those thready bits off. Okay, I'll do that in a minute. So we're just gonna gently work that. We don't want to tear it or crack it or make it bulge or bubble along the edges here where it's been glued. Okay, so there's a technique you can employ for this sort of thing. What's the best way here? So you do this when you open a new book. Board down, and then you take a little bit from that side, a little bit from this side, a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. Okay. Oh, look. Pressed leaf. Remember we're talking about stuff you find in books? There you go. I'm just going to leave that there because that is part of the book now. Oh, there's another one. It's probably been in there for over 100 years. Oh, there's another little one. I should have looked at this book for the things I find in books episode. Okay, so there. It's roughly kind of half and half. So I'm just going to let that sit now, and we'll let that repair just kind of soak in a little bit. One other thing. Let's see, it's getting a little right in the center. I did find another issue though as I was finishing the repair on this one. Look, the back board, yeah, it wants to come loose too. So we're going to repair this one, but we're going to do it from the inside as opposed to the outside, I think. Okay, there we go. Well, now that we have that front board successfully reattached, I'm going to paint it up and try to match those colors and try to make that repair as invisible as possible. It is not always the case. Usually you can kind of tell if you know what you're looking for, and depending what kind of a job that I do. I'm going to repair that second board, but I'm going to do that in a different episode. So tune in, and we'll keep doing some of these repairs and showing you some different techniques here on Bailey the Bookman.